Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you to Sturgeon's most premier station, Dusklight Radio. Hosted by yours truly, the bourgeoisie yet boorish, surreptitiously sumptuous, and ferociously forlorn Everett J. Blackwell. Perhaps you know of us Blackwells. We headed up the first ever Council of Sturgeon. Yes, sirree, the founders fought us in a proverbial trial by combat, and thanks to Papa Kyle Blackwell's spine machines, Tabitha Blackwell's radioactive ore, Clue Blackwell's neck-snapping skills, and Jackal Blackwell's propensity for limb devouring, we emerged victorious. Then there was Finn Blackwell, our great-granduncle, who somehow retains an exuberant youth even now, likely from the violent conquest he scored in the decisive Battle of Mantis Bay. He beheaded Cyrillus P. Montefort, one of Sturgeon's great architects, put his head on a spike and said, "Now you have the best view of the city, friend." Ha ha ha, Finn is truly a helpful sort, that's for certain. And then, of course, there's Ethan Blackwell. Not wanting to be outdone, he took his most trusted friend Jimmy Ricardo to the top of old Octahn Mountain, put him in a cart, and threw him off the ledge while Jimmy screamed, "Mr. Obama!" Lord knows why. After such a destructive battle, the Blackwells ruled unopposed in Sturgeon until the Great Revolt of 1922. Then they just became the shadow government. Anyway, I'm Dusklight's main and most fabulous half-dead host. My job at this fine radio station is to bring you some of the most twisted, interesting, and downright bizarre tales that I and my wonderful many-legged runners collect from the far corners of Sturgeon and beyond. Some of them will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some of you will want to wish our good janitor TJ Lee a happy birthday and show your appreciation to his long-standing janitorial servitude here at the station. You might want to do things such as commenting, sharing on the video, joining the Patreon, buying his books, or joining our Dusklight Discord. But don't fret, there's a more unique way at your disposal. Simply face away from the closest corner in your room, bend yourself backwards until you can view it upside down, and draw on your lips with purple crayon until you summon the... No, don't do that, listeners. It seems that TJ snuck in and put some notes about how to summon the neon god, Aubergine the Unhearing. Just ignore that and maybe do the above suggestions. Leave a comment, join the Patreon, maybe order a book, join the Discord, and be ready. Now, in lieu of telling you all the dirty details of our upcoming story, The Last Giant Under the Mountain, I'll simply let you know that it is the latest chapter in the ongoing Sturgeon experimental series with the playlist link below. But you can jump in here and binge the rest in order without too many major issues. Joining our writer and narrator TJ is the amazing talents of We Try Horror as Saunders, Charon's Tales as Archie, Shakira Dunn as the Soothsayer, Vidith as the Pilgrim, and the Dark Somnium as Chiya. Please ensure to show them some love in the comments below, wish TJ a happy birthday if you feel up to it, and join the birthday live stream later, or check it in the live function if you're from the nightmarish hellscape of the future, assuming you survive the nuclear winter. Special thanks must be given first to Mandy Mo for the original beauteous image of me you see when you look at our page, to Sir Gorky for the brand new rendering of yours truly, and the truly accurately horrifying rendition of our humble studio, to Dark Somnium for being such a gracious yet terrifying sponsor of the channel, and lastly, our music is sourced and provided by Epidemic Sound and the Dark Somnium with gracious thanks. If you enjoy these intros and want to see more, please ensure you've got notifications on and leave a comment for every video you encounter. With that, the sun has set and dusk has crawled into the studio once more. Whether you're working, prepping to sleep, or evading the formless void that will one day consume us all, Blackwell is here to soothe your ears and captivate your soul. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath. The scene has been set and the light is on. It's time to walk towards it. lastgiantunderthemountain.net. Addendum, 8th of August, 2000. I made this website as a private blog of sorts, as a way to upload my journal documents in the events the materials are seized, lost, or degrade in quality. Seems appropriate to embrace the digital age, and who knows, maybe someday this will be something I can add to the Dondella Restoration Committee's historical section, if they ever recognize the trip even happened. As much as I want to add photos, I think for now I'll leave them off the blog. It's one thing if people stumble over the journals, it's another entirely if they see what we found. To that end, I'll also not be revealing the location of our expedition, nor will any sleuths find it on the map. If I ever have any present-day thoughts, they will be here in italics to save confusion. The counter is currently sat at 6 and the journals were uploaded 2 weeks ago, so, thanks for the 2 people, not me, who visited, I suppose. Alright, I've got some grandkids to entertain, so I'll leave it here. Enjoy an old man's ramblings. May they help you as they helped me. Oliver. Expedition log, April 6, 1970, 9 p.m., clear sky. We've made our first stop outside of Dondella, a small outcropping of forests near the Menasha County border. Not that crossing it at night bothers us necessarily, but we won't get many opportunities for peace like this. At worst, all we have to worry about as we sleep for the night is our fellow man looking to creep up on us for a quick smash and grab, or the local wildlife taking us for a free dinner. In both cases, they'll be gravely mistaken. The weather is calm, though we anticipate it will turn in just 4 short days, roughly around the time we pass Mantis Bay and head into the Grand Gap separating Sturgeon from the next major city. Still, not much to be done. The stars look beautiful tonight, and I thought journaling would be a good way to pass the time while my companions arrange our food and lodgings. We had a rock-paper-scissors contest, and I emerged victorious. I was hoping to have initially started this some ways back, when Rodney Saunders, our family's caretaker and my dearest friend, and Archie Downey, our brother since school days and a fellow explorer, decided on discovering this majestic and elusive Harper's Wake 2 months ago. Countless hours of planning, drinking, wistful thinking, and more drinking culminated in this expedition as commissioned by the Sturgeon Historical Society. For our families, it means another notch on their familial bedpost. For us, well, it's a personal kind of glory. I have long had a fascination with Harper's Wake and the lands surrounding it ever since I heard of them in the most famous place Sturgeon ever birthed, the celestial event over the Emperor's Kingdom by the Bard of Dondella. Though likely embellished in its recounting of Angleron's undoing and the disaster that turned the once proud kingdom into a husk that we will pass on our journey, the notion of Harper's Wake persisted in the minds of the romantic and the daring as a place of wonder, a frontier unexplored, one rife with mysterious creatures, unusual customs, and practices far beyond the modern man's comprehension. And, like any young man who hasn't yet grown up, I was enraptured to find it. Our journey will likely be perilous. I don't doubt that we will emerge from our cocoons as a totally different type of person. But perhaps that growth is necessary. Perhaps through the challenges this journey brings forth, we will find renewal. I will update once we have made some substantial progress across the land. Faithfully yours, O. Comment from The Pilgrim, April 2nd, 2020, 9:58 p.m. Depth, 10 meters.
I feel the walls closing in around me with every second I plummet into the abyss. But I've only started. Is this truly how I wanted my journey to go? to simply entrust my life to fate and take a dive, literally, into the unknown. Perhaps this is for the best. A true test of my resolve still shines on me as I descend. A reminder of how close I am to the world around me still. This will not last. Nothing does. It exists for a time. It flourishes. It crumbles. It dies. For now, I am in the throes of ecstasy as I begin the journey to the depths, every moment of it. I am nothing more than a pilgrim on the search for my own Holy Grail. It's here, somewhere. I will find it.
April 9th, 1970. We passed through the greater Sturgeon Fields, a nod to the Mantis Bay Great Lakes, and onto Menosha, our last bastion of civilization before entering the Great Expanse. The government recently began building a greater road system through here, as you know, to connect Sturgeon to the wider continent. They think the project will take a decade, given the mileage needed to cover and manpower required. I wonder who I'll be by then. Or who you will be, more importantly. Hopefully, someone proud of me for finding what I'm seeking. Not a memory in a scrapbook as the result of a terrible incident, questions left unanswered as to my whereabouts, or, worse yet, an abject failure. Someone who overpromised and underdelivered. Well, not much to be done ruminating over the future when there is so much here in the present, eh? For now, we press on. The spring weather is remaining remarkably pleasant. We're crossing over the myopic road and through the forests this night, bringing us to the border of the wildlands. They call it the myopic road because legend says if you venture there alone, full of regret, they will manifest out of the very woods themselves and confront you, sometimes with hostility. Back in the Middle Ages, it was said a figure of great repute from Sturgeon ventured here for both inspiration and absolution. They never re-emerged, leaving a grieving widower and children behind. They sent a search party out, finding only their journals and sketches of their final moments. A voyager to the end, it seems. Though we'll never know what occurred during those final days, I hold that event close as we traverse these woods and emerge out the other side. Regret is a most powerful tool to motivate, but this place serves as a stern reminder that when in verse, it can break any man of even seemingly unbreakable constitution. But it will not break me, nor my contemporaries. The trail has begun to thin out. The trees, once swaying softly overhead in a welcoming dance, have grown tall, hostile and cold. Brown bark now seems grey and scorched. Thick branches jut out from the sides and threaten to hinder our progress. Archie swears he saw a visage of his father up in the trees, calling out to him, demanding he explain what he's doing on an errand for fool's gold instead of managing the family business. It was strange. There was no doubt the voice was Mr. Downey, a booming and stern voice I'd heard many times in my youth spent at Archie's estate. But the figure, if they were indeed a figure, ensured it stayed obscured in the treetops, never moving too much and hunched over. I could say that what glimpses I did see were man-like, but I would not wish to commit beyond that. Archie, to his credit, challenged the voice to show itself and did not lose his nerve. The voice simply repeated the command of his father, as if on a tape recording. Unnerved but not deterred, we continued moving, the figure leaping from tree to tree and, after some time, changing its tactics. It was an hour or so later, as the moon reached its zenith in the sky and all other light was snuffed out, that the voice did switch cadences and begin to target Saunders. Now a lilting, tender voice on the wind. His mother's, asking him to join her in the branches and observe the gorgeous view. The problem is, Rodney's mother died when he was 9 years old. He simply bit his lip, fought back tears, and soldiered on, saying nothing of the encounter. We picked up our pace from here and continued in silence until we reached a break in the trail, a circular anomaly stretching out about 50 feet, with which we could pitch our tent and start a small fire. The voice had ceased some 40 minutes back, and we hoped, with cautious optimism, it was done with us as we set up. Sleep, however, would not come quickly. As we lay in our tent, rustling could be heard around our encampment, heavy footprints and the sound of sniffing. At first, we thought wolves, but when I called out to the intruder, the response was enough to chill my blood to the bone.
Hello? Is anyone there? We mean you no harm.
A pause, then something overhead rattled a wheezing, pained voice, as if straining vocal cords that had not been used in decades. Hello? There? Mean you harm? Archie and Saunders stared at me, the former reaching for his rifle when I shook my head and, without speaking, pointed first up and then placed the finger to my lips. This thing wanted us to respond.
I will find it.
It's been 2 hours and the creature is still rummaging around, making strange calls into the night, but we will not be deterred. Perhaps this is what got Sturgeon's first Voyager, but it will not get me. Faithfully yours, O. Comment from The Pilgrim, April 2nd, 2020, 10:06 p.m. 30 meters.
The light has already begun to fade. The last vestiges of light pouring in from above are now beauteous rays that turn all structures and fragmentations into things of pure joy. Color in a monochrome world that my simple eyes are not worthy of gazing upon fully. Your encounter is fascinating. I will find a similar one as I sit in my self-imposed Faraday cage and begin to hear knocking on the wall. Something pleading to be let in. When a voice speaks to us from the void, we must think carefully on our response. Friend, foe, or something in between. I do not know what to make of this, whether or not I should even entertain the guest outside. A reflection of our own world and current events, perhaps. If you're alive, you likely know of what I speak. But as I descend further away from the madness of the world above, I feel more at home with the creatures beneath, the great slithering things that hide in the dark and live simple, monastic lives. They do not know or care if the world is burning, only that they will survive it regardless, for they are worms and know of nothing else. I must conserve my energy, my precious thoughts, for there is a long way to the bottom. But know that I am observing with great interest.
April 11th, 1970. I feel that night will live on in infamy for us all, but we elected to relegate it to a future nighttime discussion and press on. Come the morning, a scorch mark ran the length of a branch that perched over our tent. I have a feeling we may see this spectre again on the road. We were on the road not long after, passing a riverbank that in olden times marked the end of civilization and the beginning of the wild unknown that spanned for untold acres. If there was a name given, it's been lost to time. Saunders voted on the Waltz River because the strange, single trajectory of the water made it look as if it were dancing in a rhythmic pattern. I liked it, so we made an official marker in the book before pressing on. Once through the clearing, the wildlands were upon us. Minotia with its verdant forests lay to the east, Coralla and its rustic quarries to the west. This would prove to be the monotonous part of our journey, one with a multitude of conversations, frustrations, and pensiveness. But we were prepared, and the mountain range would be upon us in 10 days if we made good time. The weather was decent too, a clear sky with some indicators of rain in the distance, but that was preferred over the scorching heat an early summer could bring. I imagine I'll not have much to update you on until we reach the mountain summit, but should something of note occur, I will chronicle it. Faithfully yours, O. Comment from The Pilgrim, April 3rd, 2020, 8:16 a.m. 40 meters.
Darkness envelops the world around me, slowly but surely. Soon the last vestiges of light will dissipate from my purview, and only the depths remain, an unknowable, fathomless pit from which multitudes of eyes, teeth, and appendages lay in wait to observe, grab, and taste me. What will they think of me, I wonder? This is the last stop for us both, isn't it? The last chance to turn back, go into a life of monotony once more, and live our lives as we are expected to. I could stop reading here and go no further. I could rush to the surface, gulp in the fresh air, and let the sun cleanse me. But you never did. You soldiered on and cursed us all. Now, I must follow in your footsteps, like a good pilgrim. Let the darkness consume us both.
April 18th, 1970. As expected, the wildlands were not much to write home about, literally. We traversed them with gusto at first, then exasperation, followed swiftly by frustration before picking back up into exuberance at the prospect of the hard part being over. For brevity, I will be including in conversations Archie, myself, and Saunders have within. I worry that simply codifying their exchanges makes these entries far too dull. Who knows? Maybe they'll see them one day and give me a thrashing for not chronicling them properly. It was the final day of our walk. The large open fields gave way to marshes that stretched on for several miles. It was said that if you stepped in too deep a section, the lower half of your body would become one with the marsh, feeding it slowly while your conscious top half waited for the harbinger of the swamps to separate you and take you away. An old wives' tale, naturally, but the caution of sinkholes and quicksand-like environments was well worth the heeding, regardless of the story. As the clouds began to gather and the skies darkened, the headlamps came out for the final leg of the journey. We estimated that if we followed the upper section of the swamp, we would eventually come into contact with the mountain range as the map suggested. Historically, it was said that wisps would flutter around near the edges of the swamp territory, a way of guiding wayward souls out of the marshes should they become too lost. It was feared that staying there too long would rouse the harbinger's hunger, and they would come searching for you. Our nerves were frazzled by this point. The long walk was exhausting, and we began talking to keep our focus.
What do you think is out there? In the swamps?
Archie chirped up, ever the curious mind, stout heart, and chiseled frame to match. Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe a natural predator of the lands? Something the locals and ancients turned into folklore, or just nothing. Simple natural hazards that remained unexplained by less scientifically enlightened minds. I mused, each step becoming more laborious than the last as big boots sank into thick slush before forcing their way out.
I'd have to disagree there, Oliver. I think we know that there's more to this land that meets the eye. Are we really going to dismiss the likelihood of a creature like the Harbinger? Especially knowing where we come from?
Saunders called, the farthest of the three of us back in the walk, a thick fog beginning to roll in, making him seem faint.
Ah, that's right. You two are Sturgeonites, ain't you? Old blood. And then you moved to Dondella?
Archie scratched his chin, the thick beard shaking free leaves and insects. Rodney came from a now dissipated bloodline of aristocrats, and my family is still, in Sturgeon for generations. When my father passed and the inheritance was split between me and my siblings, I took our share and moved to Dondella, setting up in the summer estate that we now call home. Wanted to carve out my legacy. I could feel the air changing, but I pressed on and tried to keep my focus.
And a legacy it is, my friend. But, as our esteemed colleague has asked, are you really going to discount the notion of it being a native beast the likes of which we've never seen? With all that Sturgeon houses?
Archie chuckled, stretching and stopping at the front of the line.
Seems to me that, if anything, we're on the hunt for something just like that.
I wiped the sweat from my brow before thinking, but as I opened my mouth to respond, an ear-splitting shriek ripped through the quiet of the marshlands, and we turned to discover Saunders was nowhere to be seen. Panic gripped the both of us as we began hauling through the thick swamps, following the rapidly diminishing screams of our friend before hearing one god-awful noise that to this day still sticks in my skull. Gargling.
Sinkhole.
Archie breathed as we picked up the pace. Saunders had fallen into one and was about to be pulled under. We'd never find him in the fog if we weren't quick. Every single bubbling pool of muck and water was being looked at as we darted through the area, making sure we too didn't get caught.
Rodney! If you can hear us, yell! Or splash, or I don't know, anything!
I bellowed, loud as I could. We tried not to run too far from our initial spot, knowing it could take us farther away than we needed to be. Silently, agonizingly, we stood and waited for the response. A swish and a thud cut the air and we turned. Some 20 feet away we saw a hand slapping the soil and being slowly dragged under. Without thinking, Archie leapt through the air and gripped onto the hand, I grabbing his ankles and then a stronger hold on his knees before we pulled. I was terrified, thinking that we couldn't resist nature, that Saunders would suffocate long before we got him out. But something happened that to this day I cannot explain. I heard the swish sound once more, directly by my ear as I was hurled backwards as if no longer pulling onto anything. Archie coming with me and Saunders, covered head to toe in muck and coughing for his life, pulled back with me into a heap. In the madness and adrenaline, nobody else was looking towards the exit to the marshes. But I was, darting out of view and into a patch of thick reeds, were a pair of wisps. A tall creature carrying a large blade, following closely behind them. Faithfully yours, O. April 20th, 1970. I imagine these will get longer from here, but this was the night we came perilously close to death. We made it past the threshold and found a small outcropping on what appeared to be an incredibly old mountain trail. The fog was still thick as we laid down our camping gear and began to set up. Saunders understandably wishing to wash off, and we had no reservations about giving him some of our water rations to do so. We passed the time with a prototype of Archie's new game he wanted to pitch to the company when he got back. It was called Shark Tank. A general knowledge test of the world around you, coupled with the excitement of never knowing who would draw the shortest straw. The loser had to answer a question or do an action from the winner, or lose a round. The round was typically terrains. He drew deserts, and I drew mountains. I'm not sure how the scoring system was determined, but I apparently won.
Damn, you're good at this, Ollie.
He smirked, taking a swig of Mama Killer's Pulse Thumper, a local delicacy that allowed the imbiber to recoup their energy from the day's events. I, on the other hand, stuck to Ornstein's Little Red Devil, a spicy drink with a hell of a kick that kept me warm during the colder nights and ensured I didn't lose my sharpness. I'm not sure it's anything more than luck, Archie, but I'll take your word for it. I guess this means I can ask a question now. I paused, the cinnamon-laden punch of the drink hitting my throat, acrid aftertaste lingering as I met his gaze. He leaned back and stretched.
Yep. Go right ahead, bud. Not like I have anything to hide.
All right. What would you do differently if you were in charge of the Downey legacy?
The legacy?
Yeah. Let's say you're the head of the family instead of your brother Mulgrave. What do you do differently?
Damn, that's a good one. I'd probably try and update some of the way shit's internally run. You know, more people of color, more women, more, well, everyone else, I guess. Mulgrave is stuck in his ways. Thinks that mixing ain't good for business. Hell if I know where he gets that from, because our daddy sure didn't mind, and neither does our sister. But Mully says, what's in the home isn't the same as what's in the office. But I think he just finds those who are different to be scary. He sees one person in a wheelchair, one afro, one effeminate-looking guy. He jumps in his little polished shoes. He's a paper tiger of a leader. But he's the eldest, so it goes.
Archie took a long swig of his drink and held it up high.
To Mully, Sturgeon's biggest pussy. May the Farmers Collective buy you out and sell the name back to me.
He clinked my glass while I sat there, dumbfounded before drinking it dry and gesturing me to respond. Oh, you want me to answer the same question? Well, shit. All right. Naturally, the Gerhardt family is a bit different to yours. I'm not even sure all of our bloodline is fully human these days, but if it is, it's a well-kept secret from the public eye. I suppose, in a way, I am the face of the family for the time being. At least, the part that they are putting so much faith into, hence this expedition. My brother Sigurd is a politician through and through. He'll do wonderfully in the Sturgeon Diet. I have no doubt he'll make it to Chancellor one of these days. A moderate, certainly nothing like Mulgrave, but he has his limits, as it were. Relentlessly bullied Saunders, for example. He found out how he felt about me one summer's eve and decided to try and humiliate him. It's not for me to say how that went down, but it caused a rift between us. Sigurd may not be as hateful as others, but he believes every man has his station, and to rise above it is blasphemous. Honestly, I worry about my own children, how they'll be influenced. I'm the outlier in my family. The explorer, the vagabond, the
New Age thinker? Yeah, same here, pal. Why'd you think I wanted in on this expedition? Either we find something extraordinary to bring back and rub in their snooty faces, or...
The conversation grows quiet. The night air is cool and the distant sound of crickets chirping an ambient backdrop. Saunders returns to the camp, toweling himself off.
Or you die out here with your unclean assistant, and the family can mourn, then move on. Better for our elimination from the family's estate and coffers. It's a gamble, much like your amusing Shark Tank game, Archie. You'll forgive me if I don't play. I'm a sore loser.
He finished, briefly locking eyes with Archie before walking to the edge of our encampment. We sat at the corner of a steep incline, the swamps a few hundred yards below and the ramshackle trail of stones, small patches of grass and dirt snaking off far into the distance. It wasn't much, but we were so close that we knew we were about to find the mountain summit. It was during that malaise that Saunders threw out a thought that none of us had to that point considered.
What if we find something out there that we can't bring back?
His voice soft, contemplative, carrying weight on the wind as he turned to us, concern racking his otherwise youthful face.
What if we cause more trouble discovering something than if we left it alone?
Then we chronicle it and we leave it be, I replied, almost dryly before catching myself. We don't need to prove anything to anyone, Saunders. We're doing this for ourselves. Shoving it in the family's face is the bonus, but the legacy, that's our own. We have photography, sample beakers, all manners of ways of proving our worth without disrupting something that should be best left alone. I placed a hand on his shoulder and smiled. You know me. You know us. We wouldn't put our families at risk, would we? He smiled. I knew that smile and did my best to placate him as Archie joined us, a hand on my shoulder in kind.
Exactly. So let's have a fucking drink, celebrate your cheating of the Reaper once again, and get ready for the beginning of the discovery phase tomorrow, eh? Next pull stumper is on me.
Does it really count as on you if it's part of our supplies, Archibald?
Saunders teased as they made their way back to camp.
Careful, Saunders, or I'll make you serve the drinks to me personally.
Like that'd be a punishment.
Wait, what?
They walked back to their seats as I stood at the threshold of our encampment and stared off into the darkness that stretched into the foreground. And I'm not ashamed to admit a little doubt creeped in during that moment, wondering if Saunders was right. Oh, how right he would be. The summit is next. I will update once we have made substantial progress. Faithfully yours, O. Comment from The Pilgrim, April 4th, 2020, 10:10 p.m. 60 meters.
And so, the light goes out. I am brought back to the state in which I was made. Absentia. In utero. Nothingness. This is where things took their turn. Where the sane deviate from the insane. The line goes from a simple, illuminated path one follows to a Mobius strip only the most depraved and ill-fated soul would undertake. Though no senses remain with me at this depth, I still see the lights of the deep. I still feel the flanks of the bottom feeders passing by me. I still sense the hunger of those things we deign to forget about, lurking further beneath me. I wonder, did you forget? When the walls closed in on you and the next half a century of consequences spread out in front of you like a cascading waterfall of failure and misery, did you forget that this could have all been avoided? Now, the crushing weight of this deepening pit will do its job, and we shall sink beneath the waves.
April 22nd, 1970. We've made camp within the mountain. The heat is substantial and the carvings are remarkable. Saunders is nursing a fever and... Let me back up. After my last entry and a fitful sleep spurned on by some damn good alcohol, we continued towards the summit, finding a large archway constructed from materials both familiar and not. Great boulders with almost perfect smoothness and an iridescent hue. Bay leaves containing thick veins running the course of their structure. Underbrush around the edges and a fine balsamic wood frame with ornate carvings littering the posts. Not a damn clue what they mean, but they clearly intimate something of significance. That, however, was not the focus of our group's attention. Instead, Saunders blurted out the words hanging from a ramshackle sign above the makeshift gate, almost hypnotically.
From here, you who traverse become enshrined in history and intertwined with fate. Should you desire a mundane life bereft of tragedy, steer clear of this here gate.
We looked at him, neck jutting up at an awkward motion and seemingly unaware of the discomfort before Archie broke the silence.
How the hell could you interpret that? It's just a bunch of shapes and scribbles.
He gestured, and sure enough, to the both of us, it was indeed indecipherable. Saunders simply shook his head and shrugged, his senses returning to him.
I just knew. I can't explain it. It's as if it was instinct.
He pinched the bridge of his nose, taking his glasses off.
I feel a little off. I'm gonna take 5.
He stumbled and sank down against the mountain wall, breathing heavily. In the light of the torches, he appeared pale, sweat trickling down his brow. The ordeal he'd been through was not lost on any of us. This could just be a delayed reaction of some sort. Archie, would you mind? I looked to Saunders before looking to our pack of supplies. He nodded and got out the medical kit, attending to Saunders while I inspected the gateway. It was old, yet staunchly maintained. The torches on either side were made of modern material and looked polished. The fire bursting from either one was at the very most a couple of weeks old, unless whoever looked after it knew something about eternal flames. The main thing perplexing me in that moment was the point. Was this concealing a way through the mountain itself? The trail ended abruptly a quarter-mile upwards, and there was no through route to continue safely. I placed a hand on the gap between and felt something rumbling on either side. Perhaps the inside of the mountain had activity we weren't afraid of. Putting my ear to the structure, however, gave a very different conclusion. A heartbeat. The unmistakable rhythm of a heartbeat pulsating through the hard rock. I pulled away, checking my own quickened pulse before going back to the mountains. It stayed slow, intentional, rhythmic. It's alive, I breathed, looking over to Archie before repeating myself. Archie, the mountain, it's alive. The final consonant didn't leave my lips. Seeing Saunders seizing on the floor stopped that, and panic set in. His skin had grayed, something bulbous bursting through the skin on the nape of his neck, his eyes rolling in the back of his head. No. The swamp! I choked out the words, looking at Archie, who placed his wallet in Saunders' mouth and a pillow behind his head as he lay him flat, the worst of the seizing beginning to pass.
Aye, something hexed him. We need to lance this rod on his neck before it gets worse. There's a scalpel in the medical kit. Hand it to me and hold him still.
Plunging a hand into the bag, I felt blinding pain and felt the edge of the scalpel slice through my finger, ripping the skin like tissue paper as blood cascaded down my hand. Without thinking, I leapt back and placed my bloodied hand on the wall to steady myself, panic setting in as the blood pooled and dripped down the mountain face.
Jesus Christ, Ollie. You alright? Get some fucking bandages and hand me the scalpel. We haven't a ton of time. I trust you to not even look when grabbing a sharp utensil, you daft bastard.
Archie chuckled, a nervous habit but a welcome one to diffuse the tension as I moved to assist. Bloodied scalpel exchanged, and after a few minutes, the hand successfully bandaged and disinfected. Before we could lance the growth, however, we felt the ungodly sound of rumbling emanating from the rock face. Turning to see the blood forming into invisible indentations, filling the gaps of these newly formed runic symbols, each one dripping in my blood, until without warning, the stone began to shift and turn, giving way to an entrance within the mountain that stretched at an increasingly steeper incline into the darkness. A storm was gathering around us, so little time was available to debate. Archie and I exchanged a look before hauling Saunders and our supplies some ways into the tunnel. No sooner had the entrance gone out of sight did the doorway cease to appear, the torches on the walls now serving as our guide upwards. So, here we are, It's been a few hours and we've managed to lance the growth, provided Saunders with the necessary countermeasures, and some well-needed booze for the pain. He keeps telling me he loves me, but I think that's more the strong scotch loosening his lips than anything else. I love him like a brother, naturally, but Archie is concerned about the writing on the walls, but I think for the time being we need some rest. By our calculations, the route through the mountain will still take over a day and a half of hiking, and it will by no means be easy with the incline. I will report back once we have reached the top. Faithfully yours, O. April 22nd, 1970. We made camp in a small divot on the way up this everlasting trail. I said I would update you when we made it to the top, but Saunders' condition is worsening. His fever is rising and he's beginning to lose consciousness for longer periods. He keeps saying he can see Asterius sleeping in the heart of the mountain, that our entrance within the veins of this structure will awaken him. We managed to rouse him for long enough to get his movement up the slope, largely brushing off his concerns until the path began to twist to the right, flattening out into a long corridor with a gust of hot air billowing from the unceasing blackness ahead. It narrowed until we were in a single file, crossing the breadth of a football field in almost total darkness for what felt like hours. Then, regrettably, Saunders had another fainting spell. Luck be on our side that we were attached by a rope, and Archie had enough strength to spare that saved our dear brother from oblivion. But it was in that moment of panic, that natural inclination to scream and react, that we saw it. Out of the blackness, as if lunging at us, was an eye. The pupil dilated before it darted from each one of us, the hot air intensifying as something guttural rumbled in the distance.
You're a big boy.
Archie grumbled as he pulled Saunders up onto the ledge.
And we will be leaving you to your slumber. Move, lads, move!
With that, the three of us bolted across the small trail with reckless abandon, the inhuman wailing of this behemoth right behind us, unseen lights turning the once dark pit into a beauteous cavern of ochre, indigo, and magenta. In the moments where my focus lapsed and I could take in the surroundings, I spied crude trinkets and keepsakes on the walls, carvings of animals and various items hanging from stalagmites. A horrifying pair of thoughts, worse in their sequencing, crossed my mind as my footing nearly failed me. The first, the giant was not born here, but imprisoned here. And the second, this giant has sentience. An immovable tomb of rock and stone and magma encased for all eternity, barred from the outside world. No different to being nailed in a coffin while still breathing. We reached the other side of the expanse with nary a moment to spare as a large, sharp, clawed hand swiped at our location and caused rubble to fall over the opening, encasing us in the remaining section of the tunnel. I couldn't tell you how far up we have to go, nor could I speculate heavily on what we just witnessed, but my companion's responses will stick with me for the rest of my days. Archie was stoic, yet his constitution rocked from what he'd seen, muttering something about how
his grandfather had been right all along. What are the odds? I owe that drunken fucker a drink.
But Saunders was inconsolable, tears in his eyes as he rocked against the wall.
Asterius was born and destined to take up arms against the gods themselves, the child of the earth and the sky, brought down by a warrior and celebrated in his demise for daring to challenge their rule, their law, their structure.
He turned to look at me, his glasses still seemingly shimmering with that same iridescence of the expanse we'd just escaped, as he added, with a distinct weakness in his tone.
Asterius, to mean starry, assured brightness. Ironic, isn't it?
Faithfully yours, O. Comment from The Pilgrim, April 7th, 2020. Midnight. 120 meters.
True isolation is the test of all social creatures. It tests our resolve, our patience, and the limits of our fortitude. Right now, the world at large has ceased. The lights have gone out, and virtually everyone is contained to their domiciles. Adapt or die, so they say. I can do neither, so instead I suffer. The fish around me swim so comfortably. They don't even know their contemporaries are drowning, getting the bends or being eaten by larger predators, blissfully ambling their way to oblivion, one gentle stroke at a time. I will not amble to that finish line. I will not be the giant in the mountain. I will dive deeper, and even with crushed bones and a fractured mind, I will bite down on the source of my misery with full force. That secret is within your entries, and I will find it.
April 24th, 1970. The peak has been reached. It is 9:40 a.m. and a brisk, overcast Friday, but the clouds are breaking to reveal something absolutely unheard of as we stare from the top of this concentric ring and down into the pit of this peak. A settlement. We have discovered Octahn, my love. In this moment, I am validated. In this moment, I am vindicated. In this moment, your trust in me has borne fruit. I will report back when we have made contact. Eternally yours. O. April 30th, 1970. Tomorrow night we will be the guests of honor and come the morning make our way back, so it feels apropos to recap the past week and look forward to a wealth of discovery and hopeful renown for our respective legacies. The settlement, at a glance, was bizarre. A sea of yurts and what looked to be gazebos littered the circular space. Some 30 of them stretched out over an area the size of a small town, surrounded by a black lake and a small rocky border. To know that this mountain had a caldera was startling. In none of the journals or speculations did anyone theorize this stalwart mountain region was in fact a non-active volcano, or, even more bizarrely, home to a settlement. Many thought Octahn was beyond the mountain and in a pasture or secluded region, unreachable due to the craggy rock and discomforting terrain. In historical scriptures, and even in our plays, the mountainous region was described as the land of the demons, once a far more hospitable area turned to unforgiving pillars of stone and ash by the crown prince, or some unheard-of calamity. We were greeted by a pair of young helpers before we could even strategize scaling down the rock face, with a delusional Saunders still on our shoulders. Both helpers aged around 25 to 30, one of an olive complexion with a thick Spanish accent, whom I later found out was named Hector. The other, a charming individual from Zambia named Mizozi, or Miso as they preferred. After touching down, a boat ferried us across the silent expanse and towards the larger of the two islands, where a group of people awaited our arrival. Their leader, a tall individual with a shaven head, a litany of piercings and modifications, held out a prosthetic hand and flashed silver teeth as they spoke.
Pilgrims, you have heard the call and arrived at your destination. I am Chiya, leader and speaker for this community. All who are accepted by the mountain are welcome with us. You are safe. You are without prejudice. You are protected. Welcome to Octahn, the border realm. Lodgings will be made for you, and our physicians will attend to your friend. Please, come and rest. We know the travel has been arduous, and we can speak once you have had ample rest and food.
Before we could even reply, we were gently led to a large yurt in the center of town, and our belongings taken with kind smiles. I realized that every instinct within us should have urged us to flee or resist, but I cannot stress to you the atmosphere of our encounter. It was as if we were at a family reunion. We knew no malice, no hostility, no imminent threat. We just felt acceptance. Weariness had overtaken us, and neither me nor Archie were in any position to argue as our feet began to ache more in protest. Saunders was taken to a separate tent, and once we arrived at our own yurt, seeing my bed was the last thing I recalled for a solid 16 hours. My dreams were fitful. I dreamt I was back in that expanse with the giant, only they weren't yelling at me anymore. No, instead they were simply staring at me with those big green eyes, pupils dilating and reflecting my horrified expression within them. I felt something unusual. Familiarity. Then when the giant's face burst from the darkness, I'd awoken screaming. Once I rose, it was late at night. A banquet had been laid out and music was playing gently from a communal area. Archie was already sat with the elder, elbow deep in some dish and hollering for me to come over. But I took my time observing my surroundings. Someone nearby was preparing their notes for some kind of slam poetry, and each of the community seemed eager to both share and listen. I realize it sounds like some kind of hippie commune, but the kinds of people here were so varied. Archie clocked it first, what can only be described as a salaryman or a congressman-looking type. Clean-cut, whiter than milk and church on Sundays, sitting jovially between an Afro-punk with metal in every section of his face and a jacket full of spikes, and opposite a queen of the night, full makeup, beautiful hair, platform boots and sequin dress, black lipstick littering this guy's face and neck as he bumps fists with the punk. It was an odd kind of harmony. If they were on drugs, I didn't see any being passed around. Hell, I may have asked for some myself at this stage.
Your friend has told us much of your travelers, Oliver. This is a truly remarkable journey you've embarked on, but I am curious, what did you hope to accomplish?
Chiya leaned forward, hands clasped together and fingers underneath their chin, eyes awash with curiosity.
To seek glory is one thing, but something else seems to be driving you forward. Many who come here do not seek the former. They seek shelter, safety, companionship, understanding. You seem to have these things already.
Archie and I shared a glance as he scarfed down hunks of meat and cheese, pausing to speak up.
I didn't want to lie to these nice people, but I didn't want to yap away without you being here. What with you being the leader of our humble expedition, after all.
He winked and I felt a knot in my stomach. Archie was in no way a coward, but was clearly feeling enough at ease that he could pass the proverbial buck on to me without conflict. I sat down and sampled their food. It was a mixture of familiar dishes we'd have for a typical supper. Some more unusual ones I'd seen at sturgeon Sunday markets, with fish from Kerala, herbs and spices from Minotia, and traditional Dondela delicacies. More still beguiled me, their structure, smell, texture, and taste beyond anything I'd ever experienced. It took all I had within me not to lose myself in the ecstasy of good food after so long on the road. A small sampling with some remarkably aged cider that I dared not ask the source of, and I felt just as at ease as Archie, though I had my concerns. May I ask, before we finish our pleasantries, is Saunders well? Our friend we brought with us. We'd like to see him. I pained the thought of his confession in isolation, but he'd understand in time. Chiya smiled warmly and gestured with their head to a brown yurt some 50 feet away.
Your companion is resting. Our healer should be done by tomorrow, and he will need to stay in bed for a further day, but he will be ready for visitors as soon as the rituals are concluded.
Chiya leaned forward.
Now, honored guests, let me ask you something bold. Look around you. Do you think of us as savages, freaks, lepers, the discarded?
The question was not asked with hostility or malice, but there was intent within it. I once again peered at the revelry, The mixture of class, race, gender, or lack thereof, pairings I would not see on the mainland, and behavior that may pass for uncouth. But while these things were unusual, I felt nothing but comfort and security around me. I exchanged a look with Archie, who smirked and held up his glass.
Hey, any port in a storm. I've always been the odd one out at home, so this is essentially no different to a fucking family reunion. Whatever you folks do here, with each other, so long as nobody is hurting, it ain't my place to judge. Hell, I'd go as far as saying you got some mighty fascinating and beautiful people in your community, Chief.
He chuckled and knocked back his drink, slamming it down and wiping his beard.
So, if it's all the same to you, I'm gonna go mingle and try my luck. Happy trails.
Before I could stop him, he had confidently wandered over to a group and effortlessly joined them. I knew where this was going as I turned back to Chiya, still staring intently at me. I'm the same as him. Our viewpoints would likely not be shared by many of our mainland compatriots, to be truthful. Our world is one that's still catching up to the idea that self-expression can transcend the basics of normalcy. But I've always kept an open mind, as has Saunders. At this, Chiya's eyes grew wider and they placed a hand on mine, the stars overhead twinkling and bathing us in their luminescence.
I trust you know your companion's feelings towards you. Do you reciprocate? A place where you can be free to express, to love, to linger? Would this not be paradise for him?
I felt that knot in my stomach tighten as I pulled my hand away sheepishly, flashing a sad but short smile as my eyes fell. Unfortunately, I am promised to another. I mince no words when I tell you that she is my soulmate. Perhaps in another life, but I cannot ignore neither my obligation to her nor the unending love that we share. Saunders is my dearest friend and, well, he knows. We have made peace with it. We simply want to learn of your people and report our findings, within reason so as not to expose you to the wider world. Chiya studied me intensely as I spoke. The expression hardened as they observed my countenance, and perhaps even the measure of myself as a man, the conviction in my words. After a moment, those expressions softened again, and pearly whites flashed me with joy as they raised their glass.
Then we will provide you with as much information as you wish, though there are some conditions.
I traced the rim of my glass as the cold air hit me, the black lake shimmering in the moonlight. Name them.
We will not tell you of our ways, but we will show you why we live here. The solstice is coming to a close, and there will be a ritual on the lake in 4 nights. Stay with us and observe, and decide if you wish to reveal our location to your companions on the mainland. But you cannot tell them how to get here, nor can you provide them with the details of the ritual.
Very well. Why?
That will become apparent once you've witnessed it. No names of our residents. Many of them have become missing persons or voluntarily disappeared. They would prefer to keep it that way. They come from places you will never have heard of, and vice versa. It will only add confusion and exposure.
Understood. Anything else? Chiya paused before naming the final condition. One that, if you'll forgive me, I have to omit from my pages for the time being. Even documenting it was forbidden. I will endeavor to explain in person when I am reunited with you. With that, we clinked glasses and an agreement was made. I joined Archie for some of the revelry before he slinked off with a couple of the locals. Tomorrow, we begin our extensive coverage of the people of Octahn. I will report my findings in my next letter. Faithfully yours, O. Comment from The Pilgrim, August 8th, 2020, 2:17 p.m.
I am lost in the endless void, yet compressed on all sides. The miasma of my failures, my hatred, my disgust, surrounding me on all sides. I see no fish, no life of any sort around me. I am lost, but I will be found. All things buried resurface eventually.
May 2nd, 1970. It is the final day before the ritual, and while there is much I wish to share in these letters, the majority will have to be saved for our hopeful reunion and eventual journaling. Whether or not I release them is another matter entirely, to be frank. The more I spend with these fine people, the more sympathetic I am to their plight. Octahn started as a commune in its current form over a decade ago. Chiya says they were one of the first to show up here, traveling from the shores of a distant land and heeding the call, as they aptly put it, never stopping until they arrived at the mountain summit.
It is a siren song in the night, speaking to me as I spoke to it, yet no words were ever exchanged. From the moment it first called to me, I was no longer able to see myself the same way. I was transformed, enlightened, anew. I felt I had no choice but to follow the call, so I left everything I knew behind and came upon this place.
Chiya spoke almost dreamily of the encounter.
I was barely 30 when I first came here. Derelict structures of a bygone age, and only 2 residents to greet me. A kind pair always hidden behind cloaks. They prepared me for leadership and equipped me with everything I'd need to survive, thrive, and cultivate. By the time they left, our first batch of new members came along. The rules were set in place. The first ritual occurred, and we were blessed with rewards. So Octahn came to be in 7th era under our loving hands.
People all around the world disappear every day, as we know. Sometimes they get bored of their lives and simply pack it up. It could be debt, mental illness, infidelity, foul play, or something esoteric. But there are those odd few who are simply drawn to a place. They heed the call and come here, no different to the instincts animals have when they reach maturity, and must climb to tall branches to molt, or fly to fixed points to mate. It may be a more complex conclusion than that, but the process is eerily similar. Salarymen, artists, politicians, former religious figures, people from all walks of life gathered here and living with the acknowledgement of who they were, yet not defining who they are now. Saunders was awake and, though weakened, very much eager to explore the settlement with us. Archie, covered in bruises and love bites, quickly got Saunders some well-needed R&R the following evening, though it took some convincing for the poor man to leave my side. After a drunken heart-to-heart and a lengthy hug, he eventually got into the spirit of things and found someone lovely to dance away the night with. A gentleman never tells, but it was heartwarming to see him losing himself in the revelry for once. He does so much for our family. He never allows himself time to just... The ritual itself remains shrouded in mystery. We won't know anything until we're ferried to the adjacent island tonight, when the moon is at its zenith. I imagine anything else I may learn will have to wait until the ritual is concluded, at which point we'll be saying our goodbyes here and making the long haul back home. Suffice to say, my excitement for seeing you again knows no bounds. I have deeply missed you, but it will not be long now until we're reunited. Faithfully yours, O. Addendum, 30th of August, 2000. Well, it's my birthday, and this old fogey just turned 58, if you can believe it. I've had precisely 5 more visits in the intervening months, so thank you kindly for taking the time to review my strange activities, and you have my sincerest apologies if you came here searching for giants, only to discover it was in actuality about a strange, far-off land. I didn't mean to deceive you. I wish I could include photos, but I think that would break the terms of my age-old agreement with Chiya. So I'll have to refrain, and you could simply chalk these up to the ramblings of an old man inching ever closer to senility. I'm adding this addendum because it felt like as good a stopping point as any to let you know that the final entries were effectively lost, both in the journey home and the ensuing damage. Much of what I wrote was panicked, messy, and not usable. Fortunately, I have never forgotten the events of that day, and will endeavor to paint the final part of this picture for you in as gratuitous detail as I can. I'll leave you with one final addendum afterwards. Cheers. Oliver. May 4th, June 13th, 1970. So much of what happened in the lead up to the ritual feels like a blur, a hazy memory half glimpsed in momentary respites. But it is as important as the event that occurred when we crossed the lake for the ritual, so I will endeavor to tell it as best I can. Once we'd eaten and shared stories with one another, forging the bonds of friendship with the locals and hearing their own pain, sorrow, and newfound purpose, we were directed to the isolated yurt of a soothsayer. She had numerous trinkets, dolls, items of strange origin with which she allegedly used divination to ascertain forthcoming events. In our case, she used tarot cards. The room was humid. An acrid scent hit the nostrils as we were directed to 3 distinct chairs opposite a marble table. I expected an older woman, possibly even a hag, but immediately chastised myself for assumptive behavior when a young woman of no older than 21 stared back at us. I could not place her origin nor nationality, but her eyes peered straight through me. She said nothing as she shuffled her deck and placed the cards in front of us.
The past, where we all began and yearn endlessly for. Our roots can never be fully detangled from our soul. They cling in ways we can never fully remove ourselves from.
Her voice was clear, hypnotic, forceful. First to Archie.
Temperance. You are faced with much pressure as a youth. The expectations of those you loved and respected weighed heavy on you. Yet you did not falter. You were not afraid. You knew your path. You walked it without hesitation.
Then to Saunders.
Judgment reversed. You were directionless. You feared yourself and what others would think of you. They festered and grew into doubts, to self-loathing, to aimless wandering. You were lost. So very, very lost.
And finally to me.
The sun. You were a welcome addition to your family and considered its crown jewel. Whatever expectations were put upon you, they were met and exceeded. It came easy to you. Your path was laid out, and you walked it with joy in your heart.
The lights dimmed, and the smoke grew heavy as we moved to the present. Once again to Archie.
The star reversed. You recently had a change within your home. It rendered you without faith in them. That faith will never return. You will forever wonder if things could have been different.
Archie began to sweat, eyes fixated on the card design as her jewel-covered fingers moved to Saunders' card.
The devil reversed. You have found freedom, and in doing so, restored control that was missing from your life. This community has provided that for you. It is up to you if you wish to keep that.
Saunders did not look at either of us, but we knew what he was thinking as my card was revealed. A deep creaking filled the room as the lights dimmed to such a degree that only the lamp by the soothsayer's hip was illuminating anything, her face appearing gaunt in the light.
The tower. Something bad is going to happen. Something that will irrevocably change your... Change? No. How?
Her eyes bulged and her jaw grew slack, as if she was aging 40 years in front of us. She reached out and grabbed my palm, still bandaged from the injury sustained on the hike up.
How did you come to find us? Tell me. I must know.
Her voice coarse and cracking, no longer sounding youthful as finger and thumb dug into the wound.
We came to the shrine of the summit. I cut my hand attending to our friend and the blood opened up the doorway. We traveled inside for roughly a day and a half, past the giant in the center, and
Searing pain shot through my body as she instinctively gripped my hand tighter. Fresh blood oozing from the cut where her nail caught the bandages. Wrenching my hand away, she stayed still for a moment, staring into nothing.
Giant stars.
She muttered, before her eyes snapped as she stared at the final 3 cards, trepidation hanging in every word as she spoke again.
I'm so sorry, gentlemen. Your fortunes.
She flipped Archie's card first. The hangman reversed. Needless sacrifice.
They are irrevocably tied to the mountain, to this place, to whatever will happen next. They are fixed.
Next came Saunders' card. The hermit reversed. Isolation.
And I fear absolute ruin will come for you all, but none more so than you, Mr. Gerhardt.
She took my hand as mine was flipped. The magician. Trickery and illusions.
You will enact a series of events that will direct and impact the lives of countless people for generations. You are change itself. But this change will be steeped in horrors unbeknownst to man. Things we were never supposed to see. I do not know what awaits you at the end. But the giant stirs once more. As above, so below.
She repeated the mantra as the lights brightened, her youth returning to her and the atmosphere shifting. All we could do is sit there in bewilderment for a few moments.
Tell no one of what you heard or saw here.
She finally said after regaining her composure, handing each one of us her future cards.
These will serve as reminders, mementos even.
How in the fuck?
Archie began, but she held up a hand.
Please, I am tired. You came to me and were given answers. I cannot help you discern their meaning further. That is a path you must walk. May we meet again someday with better fortunes.
With that, her attaché led us out and back to the group.
You don't think...
Saunders began, looking at his card.
I mean, she wasn't wrong. I do like this place, and...
If you want to stay here, Rodney, we support it. Wholeheartedly. I put a hand on his shoulder with a smile. We want you happy above all else, even if that means without us. Saunders grinned, but his smile faded as he looked at the cards in our hands.
If what she said is true, we're not going to be here for much longer, are we? Something bad is about to happen, and I can't imagine it being anywhere else.
Archie put his card in his breast pocket and shrugged, stretching his arms.
Well, nothing much for it. I got laid, had good food, and a great experience with 2 phenomenal fucking people. Can't ask for much more than that. What happens next, so...
He pulled us in both for a huddle.
Once more into the breach, dear boys.
We grinned, putting the fear behind us as we made back for the group preparing for this evening's trip, hoping things would ultimately play out for the better. You, of course, know what happens next. Utter ruin. We ferried across to a small island known colloquially as the Conclave. A place of isolation manned only by the most attuned of the commune's people, those who eschewed outside contact unless it was for the rituals they performed once every lunar standstill. I was to understand these occurred once every 18.5 years and had already passed us by. But Chiya waved their hand and said these folks could make it occur overhead every 12 months, though no explanation was given for how this was possible, and at this stage in our expedition, imitation voices on the myopic road, creatures in the swamps, giants in the mountains, this was by far not the strangest thing we'd heard.
The island was a fifth of the size of the mainland area, maybe a football field in total circumference, though we were not permitted to wander. Instead, we were led to the center of the island where a large archway had been constructed, the shape very akin to that of a Japanese torii gate, but with some modifications to the interior. Rather than being clear, it was housing a pair of tall oaken doors, black and brown, the light bouncing off of them and the thick carvings and indentations shimmering. No handles, no knockers, just a single thin slit with which the doors could be opened, but no means to do so.
The ritual is almost upon us. Please take a seat some distance away and observe, but do not make your presence known once it starts. This is for your own good, gentlemen. This is what our calling represents and the cost of our peace. Simply witness.
Chiya smiled and turned to face the commune gathered near the steps of this grand archway.
My siblings, our time has come once again to give in exchange for sanctuary. While the world at large sleeps and Sturgeon remains blissfully ignorant, we keep the watch. We protect their way of life, gaze into the abyss as it gazes into you, so the saying goes. But we do so with a smile on our faces.
The crowd claps and cheers, tears staining their faces as the hooded acolytes begin chanting, the moonlight overhead almost too remarkable to believe. Bold, bulbous in the sky, a strange kind of light bathing this strange union.
The door shall remain open, and one will be chosen to step through. Do not resist. Do not try to stop them. No matter how much it hurts, we must all eventually say goodbye. Nobody continues unabated forever. Our backs are a bridge for those who come after to cross to sanctuary. To Harper's Wake.
The crowd repeats Chiya's last statement as the door begins to open. A blinding puce light rips through the center of the island and directly in front of us. I turn to shield my eyes and catch Archie doing the same thing. We smirk, before realizing that Saunders was sitting between us and had not done the same. Looking back, painful as it was, we saw him mechanically getting up and walking towards the doorway. And against everything Chiya had just said, both of us instinctively grabbed a hold of him. Maybe I thought he was not eligible as someone who had just arrived here. Maybe I was simply being selfish. But Rodney had already decided to stay here, and that had somehow made him a part of this commune. Life simply isn't fair, is it? The moment we placed hands on him, a shockwave erupted from the door that pushed us all back, followed by a guttural howling and the sounds of wet tearing, screaming, and absolute panic. Something had come through the grand door and was making its presence known. Keeping my head low, I looked over to Saunders, who had already righted himself and continued to walk towards the doorway once more. Archie, meanwhile, was transfixed on something out of my peripheral, one shaking hand pointing with wide, frightful eyes as something ungodly clicked and shuffled our way. I didn't see it. I didn't dare attempt to. I simply grabbed Archie by the shoulders, slapped him with everything I had, and pulled him towards Saunders. All around us, the sounds of people being dragged or ripped or, God forbid, eaten filled our ears. The sky above was absent of moonlight, and the stars were so bright, painfully so, pulsating as if in angry communication over our infraction. But we persisted. Saunders was 20 feet away when I saw something reaching out from the doorway to meet him. It was a long, pale arm, crackling with energy and light, the hand outstretched like a trapdoor spider, ready to grab him and pull him into oblivion. Without thinking, I shoved him out of the way and let it grab me instead. Pain filled every cell in my body to the point that conscious thought almost entirely left me. I could not hear, smell, taste, and the world was black. But I could most definitely hear. From the distance, an ear-splitting howl cut the air, followed by a shockwave that flattened everything, including the arm holding me. Through the ash, I could see that something had burst from the mountain. It was the giant. First came the eyes, red and filled with rage. Then the sound of whooshing as two great objects were lifted high into the air before a tumultuous crash that absolutely decimated the gate. The ensuing blast sent me into unconsciousness, and from there, my account of the next several days would be almost incomprehensible. I awoke in a hospital bed at St. Martin's 3 weeks later. My ribs had been crushed, I had a broken femur, skull fracture, punctured left lung, damaged spleen, swelling, and some nasty burns. They estimate my full recovery will take 2 years. Saunders doesn't speak of what happened. His guilt is so paramount that he refuses to leave my side unless the family forces him to attend homely duties so he doesn't cause a scandal with unclean rumors. He should bear no blame, but he does, and I have no voice with which to resist. Archie's family suffered a tragedy while he was away, one he hasn't yet shared with me, but seems to have haunted him. Unbeknownst to me until after I regained consciousness, he'd actually looked into the doorway. It seems to have had an effect on him. We told the doctors it was an expedition accident, nothing more. Saunders was careful to omit details and seemed to be on top of the organizational aspects of my recovery, thank God. When I had my pen and paper, I asked with great difficulty what happened and how we got back.
Chiya was able to get us to a healer on the main island and stabilize you. When you came around, you...
Saunders hesitated, biting his lip.
You said you wanted to go home. How much you missed your family and just wanted a good night's rest. A small hole opened up in front of us, and I'll be damned if it wasn't a glimpse into William Street and Central Sturgeon. Chiya said you'd come to understand this as a boon and a curse, that you'd come back when you were ready, and to not blame yourself.
I blinked. I remembered none of this, and Saunders could sense my confusion. I decided it best not to complicate the conversation when writing was already difficult, so instead I asked something else that had been on my mind during furtive dreams.
Did you see the giant too?
Saunders paused, shaking his head.
No. As far as I know, the giant, if it is a giant, is still under the mountain. It never left.
Again, I felt bewildered, but exhaustion took me and I fell into sleep. Perhaps I will ask more once I am better. Alas, it is a long, long road to recovery. October 23rd, 1974. I have damned my family. That much is certain. I don't know what passed to me while the thing from beyond the door held me, but it seems to have provided me with ungodly abilities that I can put into practice with great exertion. Latent thoughts made manifest by my will. As such, I have called it manifestation. Saunders has some similar yet much milder afflictions. Archie as well, though his is channeled differently. He is able to put them into the games his family makes. Somehow, nobody is the wiser yet. Recovery was brutal and the confusion more so. I still have nightmares, and no matter what I do with these blasted powers, I cannot get into the mountain nor bring the giant to fruition, as if it is the one thing that eludes me. I went back to Octahn last week, the short way around, naturally. Chiya was overjoyed to see me, and the commune is mercifully in a better state than when I first visited back in 71. More people, less infrastructure, but they are trying. The new doorway was completed in 73, but it has remained shut since the incident. Nobody has dared attempt another ritual, and all those who knew how to perform the lunar standstill every year were killed. So it's another 15 years unless a new acolyte comes along. We drank and talked over things. I told Chiya my good news and shared some of my insights into the newfound gifts I'd achieved. Suffice to say, they were welcomed in Octahn. Not so much at home.
You will have to live with these gifts until their purpose becomes apparent to you, Oliver. We don't always know what to do with blessings or curses, only that we must live with them.
Chiya offered me a drink and a smile, scars now littering their face.
That is the journey of life. We persist in spite of hardship.
This particular entry isn't going to be read for a long time. Not until you, or someone like you, shows the same aptitude for abilities I've had. I was in your nursery earlier, helping you through a rough night. Amelie, your mother, was exhausted, and though tirelessly supportive, was understandably constrained by the limitations of sleep that motherhood brings. It could be a trick of the light, my own tired brain making me see what I want to see, or even just a cruel joke. But I could have sworn that I left your empty bottle on the nightstand, yet in a flash, you had a fresh one in your mouth laying back in the crib. My child, if you truly have inherited this, then you too will one day seek out Harper's Wake, the land of Octahn, the last giant under the mountain. The giant is still sleeping, still waiting. And one day, it will awaken again. Faithfully yours, O. Addendum, 1st of September 2000. So, there you have it. If you read this far and somehow found this either through happenstance or because I surreptitiously left this information laying around for you, probably in the form of puzzles, then you are being told your inheritance. This is what it means to be not just a Gerhardt, but a particular branch of the Gerhardt family. I've already seen it in your sibling, so I know you have it too. What you do now is entirely up to you. But if you tell me you want to see the giant, I will take you, and I will teach you. One way or another, we will uncover the mystery of Harper's Wake. Together. Oliver. Comment from The Pilgrim, December 1st, 2022. The Abyss.
The giant stirs. Harper's Wake will unleash itself on the land. Dondella will fall into ruin, and it will be at your hand.
The last giant has long inhabited the great mountain across Sturgeon's borders. I wonder if it is truly still sleeping there. Only time will tell, I suppose. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of our other transmissions. We are adding them semi-regularly, and we'd love to have you as part of the Dusklight family by subscribing, hitting the Bell of Mountains, and leave a comment with stories you'd love for my many-legged runners to find. I want to thank all of our patrons for making this possible. If you want to sign up, it's as little as $1 a month and you get exclusive content, early access videos and stories, personal Patreon updates, and more. But times are tough and we will always be grateful for support no matter what form it comes in. Financial, spiritual, corporeal, maniacal, whatever you want. It really helps us out. Stay to the end to see the Patreon shoutouts. And one last time, listeners, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, Dusklight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink some alcohol-free strawberry cider, have some moon pie, watch a video about the history of locomotive robberies, and sleep on the cool side of the pillow with the window open and the stars twinkling down on you. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.